Google Pest Control Marketer. Grow your business like never before. Call 770-993-0004.
Well, hello, folks. This is Hal Coleman, along with Mike Stewart. We'd like to welcome you to yet another episode of Pest Control Marketing Live and the Pest Control Marketing Podcast. We're the only live streaming internet show in the world that we know of that is totally devoted to helping PCOs and WCOs get more new customers, grow their businesses, and make more money. Isn't that right, Mike?
Absolutely. You know, when you get more phone calls and more people know, liking, and trusting your business, then your cash flow and your growth are exponential. And it's all about doing the 1,000 little things, not any one thing. 1,000 little things make the difference.
Yeah. Hey, back up a second, because I know you're showing 1,000 little things, but with that link you showed right before that, for those people listening, he just has a link up there. nextlevelpcomarketing.com. You know, we've done the last couple of our annual workshops because of COVID. Instead of doing them live here in Atlanta at the Embassy Suites Airport Hotel, we've done them virtually, and there are a lot of people who didn't get to attend for whatever reason, but they can get every year, all the way back 5 years, I think, that weren't able to. You can get everything, all 5 of those. Some of those days that were the live ones were 2-day workshops, the virtual one, but I think you figured it up one time. There's around 40 hours or more of us talking about different subjects.
Right.
They can get all of that for a token piddly amount of money.
Absolutely.
So go to nextlevelpcomarketing.com, or if you have any questions about where to get to it or you're running into problems, call Mike at 770-826-3662. But that's the who was it that said that's the best deal in the history of Earth? I forget what it is, but by golly, I challenge you to come up with a better value. So you need to check that out. So how are you doing today, Mike?
Doing great. I love doing these podcasts. I love talking about marketing. I love hearing your perspective, and I like throwing in my 2 cents, 3 cents. And so I know you got something I probably don't know a lot about today, so I'm interested to hear what you have to say. I know what it is. You know, lots of times, folks, I don't even know what Hal's going to talk about. He just says hit record.
Well, I came up with this subject because of a discussion that I had with one of my clients this morning, and one of my coaching calls. This is what we talked about, and I thought, and you know, almost everything we've talked about before in one context or another. But you know, they say people make a purchase or make a decision after from 5 to 12 exposures. And a lot of people will take action after they hear something 5 to 12 times. And so I had a guy tell me one time he wanted to come to one of my workshops, and he's kind of a weird dude, you know. And he said, well, let me ask you something. He said, am I going to hear anything there that I haven't ever heard before? And I said, oh, almost positively not. I said, you're going to hear stuff you've heard before. And I said, but you haven't taken action on any of it, have you? I said, you need to hear things over and over again before you begin to take action on them. So you're going to probably have heard us discuss this next topic, but it's fresh on my mind from a client call this morning, and it's very, very important. And that is vehicle designs. The graphics and the information on the sides of your pest control vehicle or your wildlife control vehicle. Now, there's this misconception out there, and I don't know if much of it's a misconception or it's just ornery and stubbornness of some people who believe that less is more. Now, I've studied less is more, and I can tell you this, less is less. You can put water in a glass and look at it, and the less you put in there, the less you have, okay? Less is less. It's not more. Zig Ziglar, who I admired, and I still study him, and he's one of the most brilliant salespeople and communicators of our time, simply said, the more you tell, the more you sell. And so I've helped people design their vehicles. And I have people who say, oh, I don't want to put anything on my vehicle much except, just the name of my company. I want it clean and neat, clean and neat. Well, I challenge you to do any research studies and show me where giving somebody no information has sold them more than giving them good information. It's simply not true. And I have proven this time and time again with people's vehicles. I did it with my own vehicle. Now, my company, North Fulton Exterminating, when I owned it for 18 years, had red trucks, and I just had actually started out in 1990 with magnetic signs. It just said North Fulton Exterminating, Alpharetta, Georgia, and had my phone number underneath it. It was a magnetic, it's probably 16 by 12 standard, very clean, had nothing else on the vehicle. And, every now and then somebody would say, yeah, I saw your truck, I see your truck every now and then. Not very often did they say that. I didn't think a lot about it. It wasn't something, I wasn't into marketing back then. I didn't know anything about marketing other than just some gut instincts about some things. Some of those were things like less is more. That was one of them. Clean and neat. And I got tapped to be the president of the Georgia Pest Control Association back in 2001. So 2002, I was Secretary of Treasurer. 2003, I was Vice President. 2004, I was President. In 2005, I was Chairman of the Board. So it's like a 4-year run through there. And I had to attend a lot of meetings all over the state of Georgia. So I remember we had a meeting down near the coast in Savannah, Georgia, that I had to attend, and we had a golf event that we put on. And so I attended that, and I never will forget it. It's just as clear as it can be now, a revelation I had that day, because I was in the parking lot of the front of the pro shop there. I arrived for the golf event, and I got my golf clubs out of back of my truck, and I was sitting there putting on my golf shoes, getting ready, and other golfers were arriving. And I look up and I see this truck coming down the driveway, turning into the parking lot where I was, and it was one of those PT Cruisers, and it looked like a circus pulling out. But my first thought was, my God, look at that vehicle. Had pictures of bugs all over it, writing all over it. It was just an amazing looking vehicle. I had never seen a pest control vehicle that looked like that. Like it looked like a circus. Okay. And it pulled up, and the guy got out, and I said, man, that is a wild looking vehicle you got there. And he just kind of broke out into a grin. He said, yeah, isn't that something? I said, how's that working for you? He said, well, he said it paid for itself within 30 days after I got it back from the printer. And he said, it makes me money every month. He said, it's a gold mine. I said, no kidding. He said, oh, yeah. He said, man, phone rings every day. People saying, I saw that vehicle out there. So I thought, and then I looked around at all the other pest control vehicles in the parking lot, and they were all just like mine, just plain, the little name of the company on them, just boring, plain vehicles with no information, no good graphics, no nothing on them. And that one wild looking truck just stood out like a sore thumb. So I came home and I redesigned my trucks. I took it, the sign guy had pictures of big bugs put on it. I had a black widow spider that just spread out over the whole hood of the truck. And it blended with my red truck because the spider really was kind of upside down, had that red hourglass. And then I had a rat and a big cockroach. And I put my name in big termite and pest control and big graphics. And I even put across the back of the truck, got bugs with a question mark. You could read it from like 200 yards away, and just everything was just big in your face. And right about the time I got that done, a company opened up not far from where I was located called Got Bugs Pest Control. I said, well, I got to change that Got Bugs part. So I changed that to We Kill Bugs. We Kill Bugs, and big letters across the whole back of the bed of the truck with an exclamation point. And I put that truck out on the road, and it was amazing the amount of calls that I started getting from it. And the We Kill Bugs mantra on there, people would call up and, I'd answer the phone. They'd say, y'all kill bugs? I'd say, yeah, we do. And they said, well, I thought you did. I saw your truck going up Georgia 400 and said, we kill bugs, and I got some bugs that need killing. So I'm thinking, wow, this is great. This message just resonates from my vehicle. So I started working with my client. Went into the marketing business several years later and started looking at my clients' vehicles, and they were all just plain little name of their business on a little sign on the side. And I said, well, they got problems with the vehicle. They need to understand that. And one of the first ones that I worked with when I went into business, and I will tell you his name of his company in case you want to contact him, and because he told this story to PC Magazine, and they put it in an article about him, and he told this story I'm about to tell you. So he wouldn't mind me sharing it. He called me one day and wanted to book a day with me. Found out I'd gone into the coaching business, and he lived about 100 miles from me. And he said, how much would it cost for me to come spend a day with you? And I quoted him a price, and he said, all right. So we picked a day, and he came up. He had just left working with a large corporate company. He'd been their technical director, and he left to go into business for himself and doing mainly nuisance wildlife control work. Is what he wanted to do. So, and he also did pest control, but he pulls up into my driveway with this new looking truck, and had graphics on the side of it. His name is Mark Hunter. He's a dear friend of mine, and he named his business Landmark Pest and Wildlife Solutions. And he had a picture, a graphic on the side of his truck, right there on the door, big graphic of a lighthouse with like a light beam shining down over the words Landmark. And he got out and he was smiling, and I went out and met him when he pulled in the driveway, and we were just going to sit out on my big screen porch and work for the day. He said, how you like my vehicle? I said, well, you want me to lie to you, or you want me to tell you the truth? He said, well, I want you to tell me the truth, of course. I said, well, Mark, it sucks. He said, what? I said, yeah. I said, to start with, what in the world does a lighthouse have to do with pest control? He said, well, I want my company to be like a beacon in my community that just shines. And he said, that's what a lighthouse does. It's a focal point for people traveling on the waters to key in. Everybody knows where the lighthouse is, and they depend on that lighthouse to guide them. And he said, that's the kind of feeling I want them to have about my pest control business. I said, how in the world do you expect them to know that? And he said, well, I've had a couple of people ask me that, like at a gas pump, and they'll say, let me ask you a question. What does the Lighthouse have to do with pest control? I said, well, I understand. It's very confusing. And I said, you need to change that design on that vehicle. He said, well, I just paid $1,600. I don't remember what he paid. Maybe it was $600. I said, it's a good bit of money. And this has been 15 years ago. He said, I just paid all this money to have that truck done. I don't want to redo it. I said, well, how much business he had it for a month or so. I said, how much business have you gotten from people calling and say, I'm doing business with you because of your truck? So, well, I haven't really gotten any, other than those confusing questions. So I convinced him, and he did it reluctantly, to completely redesign his vehicle. And if you will call me and set up a time, I will show you. And I think he may be retired now. I haven't talked with him in a while, but he was semi-retired, I think. But I'll show you that graphic of that old vehicle, and looked great. And he actually came back up here after he got his vehicle done, and we did a video of him standing beside his truck to go on his website. And so I didn't talk to Mark. I said, now you got to track everything. That was part of my coaching that I told him that, David, you got to track everything. You got to know where every phone call comes from. You got to know where every sale comes from. In order, it's just like scoring in a baseball game. You got to know what the score is. Football game, you got to know what the score is. Okay. So everybody that calls you, you say, if you don't mind me asking, how'd you hear about me? That's the easiest way to track it. You can do it through different phone numbers and a lot of ways on the internet. You can track internet traffic, but the easiest way is calls. When they call, say, how'd you hear about me? So I said, I want you to track everything, and all your marketing, everything you do. So a couple of years went by there, and I didn't talk to Mark, and he called me one day, and he was kind of laughing. And this was he has I think a second home up in the North Georgia mountains, and he was on his way up there for, I think it was the 4th of July weekend actually. And he called me and he said, I just wanted to tell you that I'm on drove up to the mountains today for the holiday weekend, and I drove around I-285, which is the big perimeter superhighway that goes all the way around Atlanta. I-285, it's the loop, the beltway around Atlanta. And he said, as I was coming up and I was going around I-285 in Atlanta, he said, I got 3 phone calls from people that said they were looking at my truck, and they wanted to talk to me about wildlife control, controlling the problem of their house. And I just had to tell them, I'm just passing through here. I don't live here. I'm just passing through. But he said, I thought you would like to know that. And I said, I do like hearing that. And I said, have you been tracking it? He said, oh yeah, I track it religiously. And I said, so how much business do you think you have sold that came directly from that vehicle? He said, well, over the last 24 months, he said, I can track about $42,000 worth of business to that vehicle. I just about fell out. That was even better than I thought. But I mean, that's $21,000 worth of business a year that vehicle's like a salesperson, and it sold $21,000 a year for 2 years in a row, basically, is what that amounts to. And all because of the graphics that we put on that truck and the message that we put on the side of that truck. And I could sit here and tell you stories all day long about other clients of mine I've had through the years, like Mark, that had a vehicle that the design of the vehicle was not, did not send the right message to the subconscious mind of the person looking at that vehicle, that triggered a buying response and generated a phone call and a swipe of a credit card. Sometimes the vehicles are wildly graphicked, if that's a proper term, but the graphics get so wild that they destroy the message. They overpower the text. As a matter of fact, we talked this morning and my client said, Hal, I just saw a vehicle the other day, and he said, I was thinking of you because its wild graphics caught my eye going down the road. I couldn't take my eyes off of it, but I couldn't read anything on it. And he said, I never knew what business they were in or what they did for a living. And I said, well, that's the way a lot of vehicles are. The graphics are so wild. And I followed a vehicle. I was going up to a friend of mine's farm to visit him a few days ago. It was at the end of last week. And I was following this van. It's like a brand new work van. And I can't remember for the life of me the name on the back of the van, but I know it was a person's last name. It was pretty obvious, Incorporated. And it had their phone number. But nowhere on the back of that van did it tell me what they did for a living or what kind of business it was. It just had a person's last name, Incorporated, and the phone number. And I said, this is so wild. I'm following a vehicle. I'm looking at this sign going, I'm following it, and I have not a clue what these people do for a living. And I kept waiting for the van to turn so I could see the side of the van and see what they do for a living. We finally came to a four-way stop sign after several miles, and the van turned to the right. And I said, finally, I'm going to get to see what they do. And it turned to the right, and I looked at the side of the van, and it still didn't tell me what they did. And as it drove away out of sight, I said, I don't have a clue what business they are in or what they do. Absolutely not a clue. And I see pest control vehicles like that. I followed a pest control vehicle one time for miles, and I knew it was a pest control business because I know the people that own the business. But looking at the back of that vehicle as I followed it for miles and miles, if I didn't know them and didn't know what business they were in, if I was a stranger, I would have never known they were in the pest control business because it had their name and Services, Inc. So-and-so Services, Inc. And it didn't say pest control. It didn't say termite control. And I'm like, this is so outrageously bad that they're spending all this money on their vehicle. And then they put a logo on the side of it that they paid a commercial marketing company to design them a logo. And they put the logo on the side of the vehicles. And I saw the logo. And I asked one of the guys that owned the business, I said, what does that logo mean? That design you have on your side of your truck. And it was some symbol for some ancient something of the sun. I don't know. I said, how in the world is anybody ever going to know that? How are they going to know? It's very confusing. So when you design your vehicle, the number one most important thing on your vehicle is that it tells people what business you're in, which is termite and pest control, or wildlife control, or nuisance animal removal. And it needs to be big. So it screams out to people. You know, if you were in a crowd of 1,000 people and somebody said, you were in a crowd of 1,000 starving people and you had a box full of hamburgers to sell and you wanted to sell them as quickly as you could, you wouldn't start whispering, I've got hamburgers. Tapping people on the shoulder one at a time, I got hamburgers for sale over here. You'd want a megaphone to say, I've got hamburgers over here, right here, get your hamburger, and everybody turn around and rush over there to buy them. So it's the same way with your vehicle. If your vehicle is quiet and clean and nondescript and the message is not discernible, then you're losing more business than you could possibly imagine. And with my client, and I have, you know, I've had people tell me, especially I see on some of the Facebook groups, somebody will say, I got my new vehicle finally designed. What do you think of it? And they'll post a picture. And it's a nice looking truck with a little bitty sign on the side. And I'm looking at the picture of it there, but I can't read it. Can't read it in the picture they posted on Facebook because it looks like the vehicle is 20 or 30 yards away and the graphic, the text is so small that you can't read it. And people will say, oh man, that's beautiful. Love that truck, man. That's awesome. That is a cool truck. Congratulations. Love it. Love it. And I'm thinking, they don't have a clue what that vehicle ought to be doing. It ought to be selling. It's like a salesperson that has absolutely nothing to say, or a salesperson that whispers so quietly that you can't hear them if you're over 2 feet away. And when I work with clients and I get them to redesign their vehicles and make some popping colors and put termite and pest control really big, and the name of your business, if it's ABC Exterminating or ABC Termite and Pest Control, you want ABC to be real small and termite and pest control to be big, but people do it the opposite way. They'll put ABC really big and termite and pest control really small. You can't hardly read it. Totally bad mistake. That's the totally opposite, because nobody cares what the name of your business is. They don't care if it's ABC or XYZ or Acme or John's or what the name of the business is. They care about what you do for a living and how you can help them. So, and I tell people, I told my client this morning, you want a vehicle so when it rides by, especially with kids, you want the kids to say, Mom, look at that vehicle. Look at that truck. Quick, look. And she says, oh my gosh, look at that thing. Look at those bugs. Oh, look at that thing. You want a vehicle where when you pull in the drive-in window at McDonald's, the lady's afraid to open the thing because she's afraid something's going to jump off of your truck and get her. You want a vehicle that just screams. Bugs and termites are dangerous. They're destructive. They create a threat to you, and we can get rid of them. We can solve them for you. We're here to the rescue. And so if you'd like for me to talk with you about your vehicle, show me your vehicle, show you some vehicle designs, I'll be happy to. You know, I offer a free 1-hour consultation. And yeah, there's Landmark. You see, when that thing goes down the road, there's no doubt what that guy does. And you see that picture of that that American cockroach and that diamondback rattlesnake, those are 3D pictures. 3D, they look like they're coming off of the truck. And I don't know if you can show the back of it, Mike. Do you have that graphic also?
No, I just grabbed that off the website to let people see.
Okay,
the people that are watching on YouTube now. People on the podcast, search Landmark Wildlife Control, Macon, Georgia, and you can see Mark's website, and you can see the truck. But I remember when he had that Landmark truck with the big Lighthouse, which made no sense at all. And of course, he hasn't changed the truck in years since he made those big vehicle graphics on it.
I think he did actually change them because he started retiring and wanted to scale down his marketing. Mark actually wanted the phone to stop ringing a little bit, I think, and so
his website's still active and he's still online. So
well, he's a great guy. He's been a trainer all of his life. I think he does some coaching too, but he's a great guy. I'm sure he'll be happy to share his story. Like I say, he shared it with PCT magazine, and they talked about how the vehicle design. So my point is, when you change your vehicle design, you only do it one time. You pay to get it designed, and that's it. There's not a monthly payment for the marketing. You're not paying anybody monthly to manage the graphics on there. You get it done one time, and you never spend another penny on the graphics for as long as you have that vehicle, until you have to retire it or you total it out and you have to get another vehicle. You have to do it again. but you never have to change it, and it will generate sales for you for the entire time you have it. And once you get a really great graphic vehicle, there's things you can do with it. Like, you know, when I went, one time I was invited to speak years ago to one of our pest control associations. It was when I was an officer, so it was probably 17, 18 years ago. One of the regions was holding a training meeting, and they invited me to come and speak. And I said, okay, to do 2 hours worth of training. So I went over there, town about 50 miles away, and they were meeting in the back private room in a Mexican restaurant on a busy 6-lane highway near the interstate. You get off of the interstate, and there's just like this 6-lane highway right through the middle of town there. And this Mexican restaurant was right on that busy 6-lane road, almost like bumper to bumper traffic most of the day. And that's where they were going to have the training meeting. So I got there about 15 minutes before the meeting started, and I didn't see any pest control vehicles in the parking lot. I said, oh man, I must be at the wrong place. You know, I started getting that little flutter in my stomach that said panic, because I'm supposed to speak in 15 minutes and I'm at the wrong place. And I happened to drive around back, and there was about a dozen pest control vehicles parked back in the back. And immediately I walk in and start giving them hell. I said, I'm a potential customer riding down here. Why are y'all all parked in the back? Well, why do you think they parked in the back, Mike?
Because they didn't want people to see bug guys were there.
They didn't want to have to walk around the building. They wanted to park close to the door. And out in the far end of the parking lot, right on that busy road, one pest control guy had parked his truck out there perpendicular to the road, right on the road. So every vehicle going up and down that highway, which while we were in there for 2.5 hours, was thousands of local people.
Right.
Passed and saw his vehicle sitting out there by the road, but everybody else parked in the back where they wouldn't have to walk around the building. And I see trucks parked, you know, you go to a busy restaurant and there's your truck parked way off, way back there in the shadows somewhere. And I asked a guy one time, I said, why did you park way back there and under those trees? He said, well, I didn't want to get my door dinged. I said, you know, if you would if you would get there early at 11:30 and park right in front of the front door in the #1 most visible parking space in this restaurant, with all these people going in and out for lunchtime, the new business you would get for pay for you to get your door dings fixed over and over again. I'm in Rotary, and I've been in Rotary for 25 years. I have a Rotary International tag on the front of my vehicle. When I was in the pest control business, when I had my business, I had that Rotary International tag on it. And there's this one restaurant in Alpharetta, Georgia, where all the movers and shakers, you know, ate lunch in that restaurant. Real estate people, accountants, lawyers. It was kind of a upscale little steakhouse restaurant. Had a great lunch. And sometimes I would go there and eat lunch. I'd get there early before the line got big, before it got crowded. And I would back into the parking space right in front of the front door, where if you walked out the front door and looked up, you would see my vehicle facing you, pointed toward you. Not only could you see that big black widow spider on the hood and everything, but you see my Rotary International. And more than once, I'll tell you one specific time that I recall very well. I'm walking to my truck and some guy yells out, "Hey!" I turned around. He said, "What Rotary Club are you a member of?" I said, "Roswell Rotary." "You're a member?" He said, "Yeah, I'm a member of I forget what Rotary Club near there. There were several of them around." And I said, "I'm a member of Roswell Rotary," and I introduced myself to him. And the first question that came out of his mouth after that was, "Do y'all do termite work?" "We sure do." Start talking to him, I end up selling him like an $800 termite job. He did business with me because of the graphics on my truck.
Yeah.
The main thing that got it was my Rotary Club graphics on the front of my truck. So, and I'll have people say, my clients don't want me pulling into their driveway with a truck that's got bugs all over it. They don't want people to know they got pest control. That is the most absurd misconception that I have ever heard, is that people don't want you there, or they're going to get upset about you being there. When I worked for another pest control company for 6 years before I had my own business, so that was almost 25 years, I was driving a pest control truck every day. And there was not one single time I can remember in my life that anybody got mad or upset because I was parked in their driveway in a pest control truck. And I asked other friends of mine that have been in business for many, many years, I said, you ever had anybody complain because your pest control truck was at their house? Oh, not that I recall. I might have had one somewhere along, but I don't recall them ever doing it. But if I ask them, do you ever get calls from people that say, I see your truck, I love your truck, man, that's a cool truck? They say, yeah, all the time. So if you think you're not getting your truck boldly decorated because you're afraid somebody's going to complain or not want it at their house, you are way misguided and misinformed, because that's just not going to happen. If it does happen, who cares? If one person says, I don't want your truck in my driveway with all those bugs all over it, versus 100 more that say, I love that truck with those bugs all over it, I want to hire you, which are you going to choose? You can't design your entire marketing program around one or two people that might be offended. You design it around the 98% of the people that are not going to be offended. So vehicle graphics are so important, and they are so messed up out there. And not just control, but all businesses just have terribly miss out on so much business that they could capture if they had a vehicle that was designed to capture business and not designed to blend in and never be seen. Okay, that's enough said about that. I'm going to shut up.
Well, Hal, we've gone a little long today, so I'm going to cut this short. Folks, get in touch with Hal at 770-993-0004. I'll say that slow, 770-993-0004, and talk to him about your marketing. And if you want to talk about your online presence with what I call the big three, if you don't know what the big three are, call me at 770-826-3662, and we'll evaluate how you're doing with the big three. If you're missing the big three, it's like having a truck with no great graphics on it. And with all that being said, Hal, I'm going to say it's time to head on out of here. So you have a great day. Great show, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of PestControlMarketing.live and the Pest Control Marketing Podcast.
Hal Coleman has been active in the pest control industry for over 40 years, including owning and operating his own successful pest control business for 18 years. He now devotes his time to helping other PCOs and other WCOs double, triple, and even quadruple their businesses faster than they ever imagined. Be sure to check out his website, PestControlMarketer.com. For more information about Hal's coaching program, you can reach him at 770-993-0004 or email him hal@halcoleman.com. Mike Stewart is known as the Internet Audio and Video Guy. Since the birth of the Internet, Mike has been showing small business owners how to get more new customers, increase their sales, and grow their businesses online using audio and video, now with iPhones and Android phones. For more information about Mike's coaching program and his online training courses, visit MikeStewartCoaching.com or email him mike@internetaudioguide.com.
Google Pest Control Marketer. Grow your business like never before. Call 770-993-0004. 993-0004.